afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I am canning tomatoes. So I've already started on it, but I figured I'd go ahead and share with you where I'm at. So the first thing that we are going to do, I boiled some water. Actually, what I ended up doing is I sanitized my jars. I washed them with hot soap and water, stuck them in the boiling water to sanitize them, and the lids. So I have all that over here drying. Now I actually just went ahead and I used the same water that I had used to sanitize everything because it's nice and hot and boiling. So then what I did is I dropped my tomato into the hot water and leave it in for about 30 seconds or so, and then you are going to drop it down into, I don't have ice, but I have these freezy things, so you put it down into the ice. You leave it in there. This one was already in there, and as you can see, the skin of it basically falls right off of it. See how it comes right off. And here, the whole thing of all the tomatoes. Okay guys, so that is all finished. The next thing I am doing right now, I've got my pot that I'm going to be doing the canning in, and I've got it, it's not hot yet. I've got all the water going in that for the canning because it takes a while on my stove because the pot is so huge and my stove is just a little burner, and it's the only place I can put it because it's the only one that I have a big burner. The other ones are just little burners. So unfortunately the other pot that I have, it's not tall enough for me able to do pints in it. It would be fine for half pints, but because you have to have the water like an inch or two over the top level of the jars, and I can't do that with a smaller canner. So I use that mostly for the boiling and the mixing and the sterilizing and things like that. And then this other one I use to actually do that, and I have a rack. And these are really old. This was actually my parents. My mother and my father used it. I remember as a kid them steaming crabs in this. But they handed it down to me, so I didn't have to buy one. They're not really that expensive compared to, the amount of time you use it. I wish I had one that was smaller around, but tall, like the size of the other one, but just taller sides on it. That would have been perfect. Okay, so the next thing that we have to do, let me move on. I can talk for hours today. The next thing that we are going to do, we need to take our tomatoes and we need to, if you're going to put them in whole, you can put them in whole. If you're going to cut them up, you can cut them up. Guys, so the next thing I am doing is I took my little handy tool here. I probably should have done it beforehand, but I got all the centers out, and I have decided, I was originally going to dice them, but I have decided to cut them up into tomato slices, which is going to give me more options of how to use them later on. Thinking about turning them into spaghetti sauce, or maybe making a salsa. Lots and lots of options. So I'm going to finish doing this, and I will talk to you. Let me back up, and that's all done. Okay, so I've got all my tomatoes all cut up, and I've actually just been taking the juice and putting it down in there so it doesn't go to waste. That's just me. It's less I have to put in there. Okay, so now I'm going to take my jars and I'm going to fill them up with the tomatoes. Same thing as all the other canning. You want to make sure you have that proper amount of headspace at the top in order for it to seal properly. All my jars filled up with tomatoes. I do have some left, so I actually have a jar that I'm sterilizing now. It won't take long. It's got the water's pretty hot at this point. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I am going to add the water to them, and you want to make sure that you have that half-inch headspace on the top. And of course, this one here, if you can see or not on there, it has the little measurements, and it is definitely very helpful because you want to have the correct headspace. So I'm going to add my water. Like I said, if you have If you have tomato juice, you can use that. Okay? And then the other end of this is actually the tool that I use. I want to make sure that I have all the air out. For each one of these jars, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. So I'm probably going to end up having a little bit too much of the I'm going to add 1 tablespoon per pint of the lemon juice. Now, if you're doing quart size, the larger jars, which are, let's see the size difference. If you're doing a quart size, you need to use 2 tablespoons. But I am doing all my jarring in the pints, because most of the things that I eat, I'm cooking for just me. I'm just going to check my levels here and make sure I am good on headspace. And now I'm going to make sure I have all of those air bubbles out, which is actually going to make the level go down as it fills up. So I'm going around the sides, and I'm going to top those off. And that's good when the water goes down, because that means that you're getting all the air bubbles out. So that's fine. I can go back and just top off. That one got a lot. There's a lot of air in that one. So I'm just going to go back. Let's see. Go back and a little bit too much. Welcome to the circus today. Got all those. I'm going to hold on. As we're making sure we have a nice seal, so the oils from your hands and debris that would get onto the jars can affect its sealing on there. So I got a little tiny bit of vinegar. I just put it onto the thing, and I'm just going around the rim, and that'll clean off any oils from my fingers or things like that. So there's a nice contact. And I'm going to take my sterilized lids, make sure I've got that on there. We don't want to touch the rubber part. These all sealed up. Going to put our rings on. I have more tomatoes than I thought I had, so that's a good thing. So I have one more. I'm going to have 4 jars instead of 3. So I'm very happy about that. And it doesn't have to be the type of tomatoes that I use. You can do this with any tomato. You can look up and see what the best blend is, but this just happens to be the tomatoes that I have. I got these tomatoes. They are my dumpster tomatoes. There was a total of 6 bags of them. And this isn't all of them that I got, but it's all the ones that I'm canning. So I want to make sure they stay good, and I'll put them in my pantry. And the big thing is making sure that you do date your stuff. Make sure you have on there the date, so that way you can make sure you're properly rotating. So, because if you keep using the fresh stuff, the other stuff, you know, you want to use it as fresh as possible. So you want to, you know, use what's there and keep rotating so that you're using the older stuff first, just to keep up with it. And I have this handy rack I can use. If you don't have a rack, it's not a big deal. They make pieces you can put on the bottom of the pan that you sit your jars on, so they're not sitting directly down the bottom. And it also allows the air to circulate, not air, but the water to circulate better. So So I'm just going to grab all 4 of them. I'm just going to lower it down in. Again, you want to make sure that you have that 1 to 2 inch over top of it, which I have a lot more than that. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on. It'll start boiling in a minute. I just didn't want it because it was heavily boiling, and I don't want to have the chance of it boiling up and burning my hand. So I'd rather it cool off just a tiny bit so I can put it in there safely without worrying about splashing, because with my tremors and stuff, sometimes my hands will do funky stuff. So I'm going to have that in here. I'm going to let it go back up. Let it go back up to that boil, which is, you can already hear it getting ready to boil. And then I'm just going to let the water boil and let it sit in there for 40 minutes. That's how long it's going to take. So I will see you after the 40 minutes, and we'll go to the next step. The boiling is all done here. We had the water bath. They were in there for their 40 minutes. Now I'm going to take it out. I love this because I have, where it actually has the handle, so I can take all of them out at once. I'm going to tip it a little bit to try to get the water off the tops. Right there are all our tomatoes. Like I've talked about in all the other videos, the important thing is to make sure that the lids are completely sealed. As these cool down, you will start to hear them pop, where the air from the headway comes out from the heat and it suctions it down to give that tight fit onto the jar so that it maintains, so it stays longer. So I need to listen for those pops, and you'll hear them go down, and I will check them before I take the rings off the outside. So there's a round dot in the center, and they will pop down. Some of them already did pop down before I even got them out, but you will hear them pop, and once they are, I can actually take all the rings off of them, and I can store it with or without the outside ring, because it will be on tight. If you reach in there and that's coming off, it shouldn't. That center cap there, that's the piece that's going to stay on there, and that should be suctioned down tight, where you have to actually take something and pop it off, like on the metal caps on glass sodas and stuff. You have to pop it off because it's on there tight. That's how these should be. So make sure that you that they all seal. If they don't seal, you can either give them a water bath again, or just put them in the fridge and use them within the normal amount of time that you do. Now I will make sure if you do it right, it should seal all of them. I haven't had any issues. I think there's only been one in the past couple months of me canning that I had to redo one can. All the rest of them have been fine. Make sure you date your product. I always write on the top what it is, just because it gets to the point there's so much stuff I can't remember what's what. So like if I do apples or cinnamon, I'll put what the difference is. So make sure you label them, make sure you date them, make sure you rotate your stock. I always put mine down in my pantry area in my basement. My basement, I have a dehumidifier, so it suctions all the cool air. You want it to be in a nice, don't want it someplace damp. You don't want it where the heat is. So you know, you're gonna, just like your parents and grandparents will put things down in the root cellar. So you want it to be in a cool, dry place. So thanks for coming today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Give me some comments and tell me what you think. And if you do things a little differently, let me know. It's the first time I've done tomatoes. I am planning on doing more things. I'm not sure what. Depends on what I have. And I am planning on getting a pressure canner as well, so then I can start doing green beans and carrots and stuff like that. So we'll see you next time, guys, and have a good day.